Hey everyone, Kirsty here from Dropping the Tea. Today, we're stepping away from our usual tea spilling sessions to talk about something serious, something that's not getting the attention it deserves. We're diving into a series of tragic events happening in China, where the government is working hard to keep the truth under wraps. Now, I know this isn't our typical vibe, but it's important. By sharing this, we're helping to fight against suppression and making sure the world knows what's really going on. So, let's get into it. Over the past year or so, China has seen a disturbing rise in mass attacks, incidents where individuals, often acting alone, use vehicles or knives to harm innocent people in crowded places like schools, sports centers, and public squares. These aren't just random outbursts, they're often called revenge on society crimes, where people channel their personal frustrations into violent acts against strangers. The toll has been devastating, and what's worse is how little we're hearing about it. Let's start with one of the most shocking incidents. Back in November last year, in Zhuhai, a city down in Guangdong province, a man, furious over a divorce settlement, drove his car straight into a crowd at a sports center. That day, 35 people lost their lives, and 43 others were injured. It was the deadliest attack China had seen in nearly a decade. I mean, can you imagine the chaos, the grief? And yet, it barely made a ripple beyond China's borders. Then, just a few days later, on the 16th of November, another tragedy unfolded. This time, it was in Wuxi, a city in Jiangsu province. A former student at a vocational college snapped angry over academic setbacks and money troubles and went on a stabbing rampage. 8 people were killed and 17 were injured. 8 lives gone, just like that, because of one person's breaking point. The violence didn't stop there. Fast forward to this year, and on May 15, a car slammed into people outside an elementary school in Beijing. 4 were injured, but the details? Almost non-existent. Then, a little over a month later, on the 26th of June, another car struck children near a school in Miyun, just outside Beijing. How many were hurt? Were there deaths? We don't even know for sure because the information vanished almost as soon as it surfaced. And that's where this story takes a darker turn. The Chinese government isn't just letting these incidents fade into the background, they're actively burying them. After that June attack in Beijing, photos of the victims were wiped from the internet. Official statements mumbled something about improper operation, but conveniently left out that it happened near a school or that kids were involved. In Zhuhai, after the November tragedy, authorities didn't just clean up the scene, they cleared away flowers and candles left as memorials and shut down every online conversation about it. It's like they're trying to erase these events from existence. This isn't a one-off thing either. Under President Xi Jinping, the government's been tightening its grip on information for years. They see controlling the narrative as the key to keeping society stable. So when these attacks happen, they don't just withhold details, they censor discussions, scrub photos, and silence anyone asking questions. The idea is to stop copycat crimes and hide any slip-ups by local officials. But what it really does is leave everyone inside and outside China guessing about the true scale of what's happening. So, why are these attacks even occurring? It's not just about a few people losing it. There's a bigger picture here. China's going through some rough times right now. The economy's taking hit after hit, youth unemployment is hovering around 17%, there's a massive debt crisis, and the real estate market is a mess. Families have poured their life savings into homes that are now worthless, some even stuck in unfinished buildings with no water or electricity. Imagine the stress, the despair that builds up from that. And then there's the mental health side of it. In China, support for things like depression or isolation is almost non-existent. Counseling? Therapy? Barely an option for most people. So when someone's pushed to the edge, whether it's financial, ruin, personal failure, or just feeling trapped, there's nowhere to turn. Experts say this perfect storm of economic pressure and no mental health safety net might be what's driving these revenge on society attacks. But here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone in China is staying quiet. Even with the censorship, some people are fighting back. On platforms like Weibo, their version of Twitter users have been venting their frustration. After that May incident in Beijing, people were online saying, "Why won't they tell us what happened?" The same thing happened after Zhuhai posts demanding answers popped up before they were inevitably deleted. It's rare to hear this kind of pushback in China, where speaking out can be risky, but it's a sign that the public's patience is wearing thin. What does all this mean moving forward? Well, it's a tense situation. The government's not likely to loosen its chokehold on information anytime soon. They're too invested in keeping things under control. But with economic struggles piling up and mental health crises going ignored, these attacks might not slow down either. That could mean more unrest at home, especially if people keep demanding transparency. On the global stage, it's a problem too. How can the world respond to a crisis it barely understands because the details are locked away? It's a lot to take in, I know, but the more we talk about it, the harder it is for this suppression to hold. That's why this matters not just for China, but for all of us who believe the truth shouldn't be buried. All right, everyone, that's it for today. I know this isn't our usual content. We're usually spilling tea, not digging into heavy stuff like this, but it's exactly why I had to share it. These events in China, and the government's efforts to hide them, need to be talked about. By putting this out there, we're helping to stop the suppression and making sure the truth doesn't stay hidden. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. It means a lot. Remember, knowledge is power, so let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, this is Kirsty from Dropping the Tia, signing off. Keep sipping that tea.